I was starting a series last week called Removing Jesus, and we started that on Easter, and we were going to go a handful of weeks through, and today would be the second portion of that, but I really felt like we needed to scratch that and put that on hold, and just to address some things that are very important and sensitive right now. And so today I wanted to do that. I put a post on Instagram and Facebook on what we were going to do today. And man, I had an anointed, powerful, life-changing message set for today. I did. Okay, anyway. But I really felt like God wanted us to change this up. And so this morning, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change up. I want to be really vulnerable and transparent and honest with you and help us to kind of walk through this time that we're going through with the passing of Stephon Clark, with the tension in our city right now and trying to figure out where to go from here, how to build relationships and to move forward. And so it's a, something I'm trying to travel very carefully, and we're going to get through this. And we've had a couple of fabulous, the first two services were great and just being able to move forward. And so I'm believing that's going to happen again in this service, okay? But here's what I wanted to do today, was to be really transparent and honest with you about my feelings, my thoughts, and processing things right now. And I want you to know something. This is so important, is that as believers, this isn't about making statements. This isn't about this is how it should be or taking sides. It cannot be about that. And where I really got convicted and challenged to go this route today was I was reflecting this week on Sunday, on Easter. I shared just a little blurb of being able to move on with this whole entire situation and tension, and then went right into my message. And throughout the week, it just kind of bothered me on how I handled it. And no one said anything to me at all, but it just didn't sit well with me. I felt like I rushed through it. I felt like I didn't give a healthy amount of time and words and encouragement in that. And I just felt like I didn't lead well. And going through this week, I just was processing, man, how do I do this? How did I tackle that? Why? And I came to the conclusion is simply this, is that I don't always know what to say. There are times where I'm coming up here and I have a responsibility as a pastor to lead through times. And there are times that I don't want to come up here and give you something cheap and give you something to just kind of some spiritual, religious words and then move on. And so maybe I avoid it. And I felt like last week I just kind of sped over it because I didn't know what to say. And I want to know what to say. And I want to be able to give clear, easy direction. But I didn't know what to say. And I've come over this. I'm going to share a couple of things with you, but I going through this week, I kind of arrived at a certain place to where it's like, this is where I begin to move forward and I can share the perspective and the point of view. Is all I can do is learn to listen and learn and try to understand people. I don't think, and this can be the frustrating part, I don't think that you and I, when it comes to issues of color, tension, and all the things that come with it, I don't know that we'll ever be able to say, that's the solution, that's where we fix it, all done, move on, everything's perfect. I don't think we ever get there. My opinion is, I think the only way we can move forward with unity and understanding is when we just say, I've got to keep listening to people. I don't understand. I don't get it. But just because I don't get it, I can't just make up my mind on how things are, how they should be, or how someone shouldn't be, and just make a decision in my mind and make a statement and that's it and stay there, because I'm never going to be able to move forward. I was talking with a friend of mine, he's a pastor, last night we were talking, and he made a statement to me that he stole from somebody, because that's what pastors do, we steal stuff when we hear something good. But he said this, he said he heard it this way, that the minute we stop listening and learning, we begin to have prejudice. We begin to just develop our own thoughts and ideas, and that's where I think that, we kind of break some bondage. And I felt like for me, man, that's an area where I want to break it. And so the frustrating point is like, all right, so where do we go from here? How do we even come together like this morning? How do we even start off kind of on the same page? And then I recognized this, and I really felt like the Lord put this in my heart for all of us. I don't think there's one person in this room that would disagree with the simple fact of this. Stephon Clark did not need to die that night. A man did not need to lose his life. And it doesn't matter what perspective you have. I'm not speaking from sides. I'm not here to take sides. We shouldn't be taking sides. There's only one side. That's God's side. And we need to look at the perspectives of things, but we can't just look at it from one point of view. And I know many are hurt. I know many are angry or frustrated. I know many are, they've just had it. And, I go through feelings like this. Everyone, I think, goes through feelings where I get mad. I get frustrated. I get confused, how and why, or even the thought of this, when will it all end? And I'm just speaking really honest and transparent because I don't want to be fake with you. I want to be able to just say, you know what? Church, I'm trying to learn too. I'm just trying to be the man of God that He's called me to be and live that life and lead as well as I can. But I want us to be able to come together and let's just be honest. And this week, I've been in a couple meetings with a group of pastors. I'm a part of a network for downtown pastors that we meet monthly. And then there was another meeting that was just kind of called together because of this. And just having dialogue, there was things that were heard on the other end that weren't ever known or understood before. And then I heard some things that I don't know that I was crazy about or that I liked. But I don't stop learning. I don't stop listening. I don't stop processing to where, man, how can I be able to build some bridges? Because that needs to be my heart. And we need to be able to have these transparent types of talks and conversations. I went to the one breakfast, and there we were able to have some dialogue across the table and just with a mix of races at the table on this whole topic and what do we do. And then there was an impromptu kind of meeting on Thursday that was happening for pastors to come together, and it was led by a group of African-American pastors that came and wanted to share their heart and where they were, and they're inviting white pastors and any other race to come out, and because they wanted to share from their point of view on going through this and processing for them the hurt, the pain, and frustration on their end, and trying to figure out what to do. And so we all got together and met. And here's the thing too, if I can just say this, I'm going to say some stuff that's just kind of, let's just go ahead and expose the elephant in the room. Whenever the white guy starts talking about race, tension just goes up. Right? Tension just goes up. Some of you, I'm starting to talk about this. Since I've begun, you're like, what's he going to say? How's he going to say it? Check this out. What did he really mean by that? That's just automatically there. And so here we are I'm in a meeting with a group of pastors, and they had about 5 or 6 different African-American pastors come up and share and speak. And as they were sharing, there were really influential pastors here in our city, and as they were sharing, there were things that they shared in coming from their heart that they just spoke out and just were very honest. And they said, and I heard this from a couple different ones. It was kind of the theme that was there, you could sense, was that they just said, right now, we feel like going through this, that our white pastors aren't with us. That we want you to speak up and you're not speaking up. And then they even said things like, you're not taking a stand with us. We're going through this alone and you're not even there to stand with us. And there were other things, and I could tell there was a sense of hurt and a sense of, frustration for them. And so I just had an opportunity. I took the microphone, which everybody all of a sudden said, the white boy's got the microphone, hold on, But I just was really honest there, and I just said, hey, I just want to share what I'm feeling. And I know the simple fact that the white pastor just grabbed the microphone and tension just went up in here right now. And I just shared a little bit about myself, and I just said this, is that when I turned to one of them that was speaking like, hey, you're not speaking up. And I just said, hey, you're saying to speak up, and then you're saying that you want us to stand up, but I don't know what to say. I literally don't know what to say. And I don't know what to say here in our church. And as I'm talking with him, I don't know what to say. I said, I really need you to tell me what to say so I say the right thing. Because I want to be careful. I want to have healthy relationships. And I told him this. I said, I don't want to piss off this group and then hurt this group. And I'm trying to ride this line. And I don't know what to say to help us move forward. And then the other person, and, there's a few with this perspective. They said, well, on taking a stand, I said, I didn't even know I had permission to be there to stand. I didn't know it was expected of me to stand. And I want to be for us. I want to be together, but I don't know what to do. I need you to tell me when and where, and I'll be there. And what this did was this just opened up a lot of dialogue. There's about 50 pastors there, and just taking the microphone and talking to where, hey, where do we start? Hey, how can we just be transparent? And today, that's just what I wanted to do with you guys, to let you know. I don't always have the right words. Sometimes I'm afraid to say something because I think I might ride the line and someone over here may turn their head and say, peace. The one thing I love about Streamline, we do not have a reputation of being a white church, a black church, a Hispanic church, an Asian church. We are just simply the church. And I love that about our church. The one thing is this, is that as a pastor of a church as multicultural, is you have to navigate through and be careful to be able to minister to people without damaging people. And so that's where the frustration was, and we're working through it, we're talking through it, we're texting, and I've got lunch scheduled with one pastor this week, and I told another one, hey, if there's anything ever and something's happening, would you text me and let me know so I can be a part? I don't want to be on the sidelines, and that's what I don't want. So we're trying to come together, and we need to do the same thing as the body of Christ. But it happens when we listen and when we're willing to learn. And if we're not, that's when it just goes south and we never get anywhere. Are you following me this morning? And so today what I wanted to do was just provide some different perspectives. I'm not calling them sides, because if we pick sides, then we're on offense and we're on defense. And so I wanted to just share some things today that I just made some notes. And also there's a post that I want to read, because I think we don't see things from every angle. We've just made statements in our mind, or we've just kind of judged how things are, and how someone's making a big deal about this when it's not that big, or someone's accusing this and they're wrong, and that's the way we're operating. And so I wanted to open up with this story I think is really important. There's a handful of pastors there. One was Pastor Rick Cole from Capitol, and he shared this, and I just said, dude, I need that. I need to share that this Sunday. And so he sent this to me. So this is a story about let me just read it. It says, Kate is a native of the Pacific Northwest, former attorney who negotiates with kids and over-volunteers locally and nationally. She posted an article on July 19th, 2016, response to the conversation regarding Black Lives Matter. I wrote this piece for my white friends. While we watched black men dying through cell phone videos, my white friends were increasingly embracing hashtag All Lives Matter as a response to hashtag Black Lives Matter. I grew angrier and angrier. Then it struck me. My white friends simply did not understand what it is like to be black. It was unfathomable to them that a white person and a black person could live such profoundly different experiences. As a white woman who grew up in privilege, I understood their ignorance. As a mom of white and black children, I was in the unique position to validate the black reality while understanding the white one. So I sat down to write, to plainly and clearly explain the difference to my well-intentioned but unknowing white friends. I see now that black people live a near daily existence of slights, suspicion, and even danger. Most white people truly have no idea. Like me once, they believe things happen to black people. They just also believe these are rare moments inflicted upon black people by an enlightened person. It was unfathomable to them that it was every day, everywhere. My ultimate hope is that by non-blacks being clear-eyed to the black reality, we could finally have an honest conversation about how to bring change. Until Black Lives Matter, all lives do not. As a white mother of 2 black children and 3 white children, who all have a white father, I have something to say. Racism exists. It is real and tangible, and it is everywhere all the time. When I brought my boys home, they were the cutest, sweetest babies ever. Wherever we went, people greeted us with charm and enthusiasm. Well, not all people and not everywhere. But to me, they were the wacko exceptions. I thought to myself, get over it. Now my boys look like teenagers, black teenagers. They are 13. Let me ask you these questions. Do store personnel follow your children when they are picking out their Gatorade flavors? They didn't follow my white kids. Do coffee shop employees interrogate your children about the credit card they are using to pay while you're in the bathroom? They didn't interrogate my white kids. When your kids trick or treat dressed as a ninja and a clown, do they get asked who they are with and where they live door after door? My white kids didn't get asked. Do your kids get pulled out of the TSA line time and again for additional screening? My white kids didn't. Do your kids get treated one way when they are standing alone but get treated a completely different way when you walk up? I mean a completely different way? My white kids didn't. Do shoe salespeople ask if your kids' feet are clean before sizing them for shoes? No one asked me that with my white kids. Do complete strangers ask to touch your child's hair or ask, are they from druggies? No one did this with my white kids. Do you tell your kids not to fight back because they will be seen as aggressive if they stand up for themselves? Have you had to honestly discuss with your husband whether you should take your children to the police station to introduce them to the officers so they would know your children are legitimate members of your community? Have you had to talk to your children about exactly what to say and not to say to an officer? Have you had to tell your children that the objective of any encounter with police or security in any form is to stay alive? It never occurred to me to have these conversations with my white children. In fact, it never occurred to me for myself either. There is no question that my boys have been cloaked in my protection when they were small. What I did not realize until now is that the cloak I was offering them was identification with my whiteness. As they grow independent, they step out from my cloak and lose that protection. The world sees them differently. It is sweet when they are adopted little black boys so graciously taken in by this nice white family. But when they are real people, well, it's not the same. And they still look like little boys. What happened to them when they look like what happens to them when they look like the strong, proud black men I am raising? The reason why the phrase all lives matter is offensive to black people is because it isn't true. Right now in America, my black children are treated differently than my white children. So when you say all lives matter as a response to the phrase Black Lives Matter, you are completely dismissing the near daily experience of racism for those with pigment in their skin, curl in their hair, and broadness of their nose. I am posting this so you can see the reality I have witnessed and experienced because, frankly, I didn't believe it was true until I saw it up close, directed at two souls I love over and over again. So please, use this post as a pair of glasses to see the racism that surrounds you. Then we can actually make progress toward all lives being valued and cherished. We have to live and learn and listen to points of views that we've never lived in. I will never be black. I will never be Asian. I will never be a police officer as far as I know. And I can't just go along making assumptions about people or making statements or making decisions instead of just learning, instead of listening. And if we don't listen to things like this, we never become sensitive. And we have to do that if we want to move forward and to be able to live in unity and love together. But when we take stands and we take sides instead of trying to build bridges, we only hurt our future and we hurt the generations that are before us and beyond. And so there's this perspective, and then there's also perspectives of officers, of what they live through and how they need to live. And it's easy for many to jump on board and say how terrible the police force is altogether as one. And when we do that, we can dismiss those who are truly golden. Many of them, most of them are truly golden. And some of them feel like it's a call in their life to be protection and to serve their communities with love and hope. And there was a California Highway Patrol that I wanted to have here today, but he couldn't make it. And the reason is they did a national story about him It just kind of happened, and it was on Fox 40 News, and it went viral. And it's a story about this CHP and kind of a stand and a situation he got caught in. But I wanted to play the video so that we can see from a different perspective as well. So check out the video.
Well, guys, you can see the hundreds of people that are packed right here outside of council chambers. They're repeating Stephon Clark, his name over and over again, that this is their streets. Very emotional, obviously, for all of these people. Also emotional for the other side of this, and that is law enforcement. We caught up with one CHP officer, a local sergeant, who explains why he grabbed a sign during Thursday's protest and tells you exactly why he did it.
What you gonna do, shoot him?
Sergeant Matt Burgess says the shooting death of Stephon Clark is a tragedy. Tragic for Clark's family and tragic for the officers involved, whom he knows personally. He says despite what some may think, law enforcement does not go out with the forethought of killing an innocent person or mistaking them as having a weapon when in fact they don't. And last Thursday, he said God placed him on Interstate 5 in the path of hundreds of protesters as they made their way onto the freeway. He pleaded with the huge crowd present not to go onto the freeway. Desperate to do something, Burgess asked protesters what he could do to get everyone off the freeway safely.
And the guy says, hold this sign. I said, what sign? Because I'm not paying attention to signs. Hold this sign. I said, give me the sign. I'll hold it. I said, no, will you get off the freeway? So they took pictures or whatever else. I didn't have any political agenda, no personal agenda. My agenda was to make the scene safe and get everyone off the freeway because I didn't want to see a loss of life.
And not too long after, the crowd started to move their way off of the freeway. He explained that he held the sign to prevent anyone getting hurt, to potentially save lives. When he finally paused and focused in on the picture of him holding the sign, he says he saw empathy.
Through my eyes, when I look at that sign, I don't see anything wrong with it. And if you see something wrong with that sign, I just ask that you take a reflection in the mirror. Because if that's your son or daughter that lost their life,
I didn't have to kill him like that.
Would you not want someone to at least hold a sign to acknowledge it?
Now, that sergeant has served with the California Highway Patrol for nearly 20 years. His twin brother, John Burgess, has been a battalion chief with Sac City Fire. This is not only a community that they work in, but they also live.
And Matt Burgess is a personal friend, and to see his heart for serving people is incredible. And as a matter of fact, I was on the phone with him the other day. His first cousin, is Rodney King. And he still chooses to serve and love people. And he could have all these different feelings. And so we don't always know the history or the background of officers. And I want to just try to see things from different angles. And so I'm so thankful for the officers that we have here in our church. We have 4 different SAC PD that attend our church. And right now in the SAC PD, there are issues that they're working through and challenges as far as race there as well. There's over 600 officers with SAC PD, and only about 20 are black. There's a challenge, and they're working through this. And I'm so proud that 3 of those guys go to our church, and they are stand-up officers. I've gone on a ride along with one of them, and they're amazing men. And all 4 of them, listen to this, they volunteer every Sunday to provide security for us so that there will never be a shooting that takes place here at Streamline Church. And one of them I've known now for about 8 years. He's been going to our church, and that's Officer Obed Magny. So Obed, would you come on up? Would you welcome him as he comes? And something you should know about Obed, he started coming to our church about 8 years ago. And Obed, maybe one thing you don't know is this guy's like going national, all right? Check this out. He has a doctorate in organizational leadership. He has, I'm going to get this right, master's in criminal justice and a bachelor's in sociology. No!
I have a master's in emergency services administration.
Oh, that's.
And the bachelor's in criminal justice.
Oh, yeah, just a few other degrees.
Yeah,
anyway.
I need to get a life, is what he said.
Yeah. But not only that, and he goes around and he speaks. He's a keynote speaker at several different conferences and things like that all the time if you follow on his social media. But also, recently, the last 2 years, they had him go through and rewrite part of the policy manual for SAC PD. And so God has given him a lot of influence. And so I wanted to just ask him a couple questions here today so that we can really understand the perspective from the police officer's point of view. And Obed, can you just tell us right now what it's like, the temperature, the climate, being an officer in Sacramento right now for you and your coworkers?
Sure. And the other officer, just so you guys know, is sitting over there, Anthony Gamble. Raise your hand, Anthony.
Yes. And then also Travis Boyer isn't here, but his wife Maiko is. Maiko, would you raise your hand? And then another one was Jason Hewitt, and he was in the earlier service. He's out there doing security right now.
So, as far as the job goes, nothing's changed for me, and for the most part, the other officer's working. So we have a job to do, so we're going to continue to do that job. But at the same time, we can't ignore the fact that we're kind of like the epicenter here in the United States as of today. So yeah, we're kind of mindful of there is a lot of scrutiny with our department, with the job that we are doing, and we are mindful of that. But for the most part, we all do the right things for the right reasons, and people are going to scrutinize us no matter what, even if we do the right things. And, that just kind of comes with the territory. If you're a politician, you're going to have people that don't like you for whatever reason. So I'm just grateful and thankful that I do have some influence in, providing that public safety. Myself and obviously Anthony and Jason, who's out there right now, and along with Travis. I can speak, for those three individuals. So, this is just part of the territory,
right.
And it's not just Sacramento. It's other cities are going through this. Baltimore's gone through this. Ferguson's gone through this. LAPD, Oakland. So
what's been the difference that you've noticed? Because we could have been another Ferguson or another Baltimore, but what's the difference, you think?
The biggest difference for me that I've noticed is that our chief, Daniel Hahn, is a man who was born and raised here in Sacramento, and he is Sacramento. So he grew up here. He knows everybody in the city here. He already had that trust with the community. He already had that relationship on the front end. So when you see a situation like this happening, the community, they stand behind him in giving him pause and letting this whole process work through the criminal justice system. Because of that established trust, you don't see the looting that you've seen in other cities. You don't see the cars on fire. You don't see people raiding businesses and stealing things and all those kinds of things. So because that relationship was already established, with our current police chief right now, you're seeing a lot of reservation with people here in the city, kind of going sideways.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, huge factor for us.
And so what kind of direction, insight, awareness would you say is important for us during this time walking through this?
Buy every, no, I was going to say something that was going to be funny. I was going to say, we like donuts and bacon. That doesn't hurt. I love donuts and bacon, so if you want to hook a brother up, feel free to get on top of that real quick. No, police officer, I mean, we're human too. I watch sports. I have a life outside of work, so I'm not SAC PD 24/7. So I like to work out, although I don't look like it as of recently because I've been.
Stop it! I told him to wear a jacket so he wouldn't show those things.
Yeah.
Embarrass me with my,
Yeah. But, don't let the uniform intimidate you. We're very approachable. You can ask us any questions. I mean, I'm out here all the time. People ask questions. We're not going to get our feelings hurt if you have a different opposing view about how we should do things or anything like that. The listening part is very, very important. There are some people going through some trauma out there. There are some people who are hurt. And it's okay if you want to vent that frustration towards me. I'm okay with that. Most officers are actually okay with that. We accept that as when we put that uniform on, that people are going to say things that we may not like. But we still have a job to do, and we're still going to protect and serve, regardless whether you hate us professionally, personally, or anything like that. So we're regular people, just like y'all. I'm not special. I put my clothes on the same way you guys do. I don't sleep with my uniform on or anything like that.
One thing that was real important for me to have him come is I just want you to be willing to ask questions and talk. I've learned so much from these guys in just different conversations and even scenarios. Well, what's supposed to happen here? What should have happened here? What, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to answer things to the best of their ability and what they're allowed to share. And again, it's getting to the table with people and trying to get understanding, whether it's a different race, different mindset, different culture, different uniform, whatever it is. Whenever you see these guys here, pull them aside, ask them. They're going to tell you, and if it's something that's not right or whatever, they're not going to try and hide things. They want the truth, and they want protection, they want safety, they want integrity, and so that's what they're here for. So would you thank Obed for being here today, sharing? By the way, he is single, ladies. He's still single. All right. He is. Yeah, I'll take the applications here. Jason is too. We got a couple of them. We're going to go ahead and... Anyway. But we need to listen and learn. We need to get to the table and be willing to ask questions and even confront and face the prejudices that you have or the things that you jump to conclusions on. There's a couple scriptures I want us to look at today, and it's really important. The first one is Romans 12:18. It says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. It doesn't mean if it's possible with them. It's talking about you. If it's possible with you, for you and I to say, as far as it depends on me, every person I meet, no matter how crazy, no matter how obstinate or stiff-necked or hard-headed, whatever it is, no matter if they hold grudges or whatever, as far as it depends on me, I'm going to be one who lives at peace. As far as it depends on me, I'm going to be one who listens and who's willing to learn and try to understand for the rest of my life. Because that may just simply be the solution to be able to build bridges to have peace. And another one I think is so important, and Jesus was sharing the Sermon on the Mount. And in Matthew 5, one of the key scriptures here is this, in an area that we are blessed. It says, blessed are the peacemakers. See, peace can't be kept. It has to be made over and over and over. You can't keep it. You have to restart it. And it says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. You want to know how people see that we're children of God? By how we continually make peace. And we work at it with all that we can. And when you and I make a commitment to listen and learn from people, even when we don't like what they're saying, even when we don't agree, even when we think they've got it wrong and we've got it right, that we still say it's about making peace. It's not about an agenda or picking a side. But we've got to make peace. Because we can get there on a relational level. Coming together. It may not be one final solution and one final fix-it, but we can have that regularly in our relationships if we try. I want to show a video here in a minute. It is probably my favorite message that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ever shared, and the significance behind it. And he builds this message on the story in Deuteronomy where Moses is leading the Israelites, the nation of Israel. They've gone from Egypt and slavery and hunger, and they've gone through all of these terrible challenges, and they get to a place to where they see the promised land that God has planned for them. And they get to the mountaintop, and they see it. They begin to celebrate, and Moses makes it clear, there's the promised land, but he knows this, that he's not going to be able to go because he's going to die before he gets there. And that's how Deuteronomy ends. And the significance of this video is you have a man named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who fought, who gave everything he could for peacemaking and to make things better and believed in a promised land. And this would be his last message that he'd ever preach, and it was the night before he was assassinated. But he tells everyone, I know the promised land is here and get ready for it. So would you watch this video? Because I want us to be inspired to say we're going to learn and we're going to listen and we're going to come to the table and we're going to talk and have honest conversation.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
What a powerful message, right? A little prophetic in him saying, I don't know if I'll get there with you, and the next day he's assassinated. But he gave of himself to be a peacemaker. And we can get there. And we can get there today by committing ourselves to say, I'm going to be a learner and I'm going to be a listener and I'm going to try to understand with everything I can. And that's where the promised land is found, I believe.